Good morning, students. Welcome back. Students, today again we will revise our chapter, that is introducing Western sociologist. Okay. So students, today I am going to discuss about Durkheim's theory and social fact, suicide. Right? I have already discussed it. Again today we will revise it again. According to Durkheim, the term suicide is applied to all cases of death resulting directly and indirectly from a positive or negative act of the victim himself, which he knows will produce this result. He also believes that because of high level of anomic, there are high level of suicide. So students, Durkheim said that suicide is a social fact and we have to study the types of suicide according to Durkheim, because in our book, NCERT textbook, we have to follow it because in our book there will only be the types of suicide. According to Durkheim again, he is a French philosopher who was born on 15th April 1858. Durkheim acknowledged Comte as his master. On a sociological perspective, when Auguste Comte and Spencer, means the Herbert Spencer, were considered as the founding father of sociology, Durkheim is considered as the grandfather, and the systematic approach to study the society began with him. Durkheim's theory of suicide is related in various ways to his study of division of labor. Actually, we first approach the term suicide from his theory division of labor. It is also linked with the theory of social constraint. Durkheim has established the view that there are no societies in which suicide does not occur. Right? Rejecting most of the accepted theories of suicide, Durkheim, on the basis of his monographic studies, claims that suicide as primarily a social phenomena in terms of the breakdown of the vital bond of life. Durkheim, in his classical study of Le Suicide, which was published in 1897, demonstrates that neither psychopathic factor nor heredity nor climate nor poverty nor unhappy love nor other personal factors motivate along from suicide explanation of suicide. But I said other personal factors motivate along from sufficient explanation of suicide. So students, what Durkheim said, what are the factors? According to Durkheim, he said that neither psychopathic factor nor heredity nor climate nor poverty nor unhappy love nor other personal factors motivate along from sufficient explanation of suicide. We have to know more. Students, according to Durkheim, suicide is not an actual act nor a personal action. It is caused by some power which is over and above the individual or super individual. Students, listen carefully. He said that suicide is not an individual act and nor a personal action. It is caused by some power which is over and above the individual or super individual. He viewed all classes of death resulting directly and indirectly from the positive or negative acts of the victim itself. Who knows the result they produce? Having defined the phenomenon, Durkheim dismisses the psychological explanation. Many doctors and psychologists developed the theory that majority of people who take their own life are in a pathological state. But Durkheim emphasized that the force which determines the suicide is not psychological but social. He concludes that suicide is the result of social disorganization or lack of social integration or social solidarity. Understood? Now we have to discuss about the types of suicide. Emile Durkheim classified different types of suicide on the basis of different types of relationships between the actor and his society. Between the actor and his society. First types is egoistic suicide. First types is egoistic suicide. According to Durkheim, when a man becomes socially isolated or feels that he has no place in the society, he destroys himself. Students, you have to understand it, the types of suicide, so you can able to write down the answer of different types of questions related to suicide. What I said, egoistic suicide. According to Durkheim, when a man becomes socially isolated or feels that he has no place in the society, he destroys himself. This is a suicide of self-centered person who lacks feelings and is usually cut off from mainstream of the society, who has given main attention on his or her own ego or own self. He or she cannot be able to adjust or able to adjust with the whole society. That time the person commits suicide. That is known as egoistic suicide. Next, that is altruistic suicide. What is it actually? Altruistic suicide. These types of suicide occurs when individuals and the group are too close and intimate. This kind of suicide results from the other integration of the individual into social proof. For example, Sati custom. So what I said, altruistic suicide means when individual and the group are too close and intimate. This kind of suicide results from the other integration of the individual into social proof. For example, like the Sati custom. It's a altruistic suicide. The reason of suicide is related to society, social customs. Okay? Next, anomic suicide. These types of suicide is due to certain breakdown of social equilibrium, such as suicide after winning a lottery. In other words, anomic suicide takes place in a situation which has cropped by suddenly. Anomic suicide is also a suicide that is for any sudden reason he or she become alienated and it's a result of overconfidence also. That is known as anomic suicide. Next one is the fatalistic suicide. What does it mean? These types of suicide is due to over regulations in society. Means suppose a society there are lots of rules and regulations and all rules and regulations are very tough to obey. Under the over regulations of a society, when a servant or slave commits suicide, when a barren woman commits suicide, it is an example of fatalistic suicide. So the common people or the very general people, they are not able to adjust or they are not cope up the pre-existing rules of the society. That time he or she commits suicide. Now, so we have learned that 4 types of suicide. First one is the egoistic suicide. Next one is the altruistic suicide. Third one is the anomic suicide. And fourth one is the fatalistic suicide. So now we will evaluate the criticism of Durkheim's theory or Durkheim's view. When we will study or when we will learn any theory, we sociologists are also criticize the theories. Okay. So as usual, we will criticize the Durkheim's theory also. Although Durkheim's theory of suicide has contributed much about the understanding of the phenomena because of his stress on the social rather than on biological or personal factors. The main drawback of the theory is that he has laid too much stress only on one factor, namely social factor, and has forgotten or undermined other factors. Okay, so thereby making his theory defective and only one-sided. Obviously we are the social animals, so social factor is okay, but side by side in our life society is not always the matter, right? So students, I hope all of you understood the theories of suicide and the typologies or the types of suicide. So students, I am requesting to all of you, please go through the whole chapter. Actually, if we want to attempt the different kinds of MCQs from the chapter, for that we have to read out the whole books. It's good for everyone if you read the whole chapter. Then I hope all the students will automatically attempt the different types of short questions, fill in the blanks and the MCQs. So that's why I am requesting to everyone, please go through the whole chapter. If you face any problems or any types of queries, you can ask it in my Zoom classes. So today this much only. Thank you everyone.